I have a concern about the Kings that may be overblown based on what I was reading on the internet last night.
Okay.
You can imagine that.
Heaven forbid the internet.
Are we still doing the thing where the Kings could be the Nuggets?
Well, I don't see why not.
Okay. Then we need to have a very real discussion because they can't, first of all.
Well, I mean, like trying to emulate another team and trying to be better than the other team is never easy.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I certainly think that there is a pathway. Like, I'm intrigued. I want to hear your thought because I think I have a rebuttal.
The Nuggets' runway has been so long. Jamal Murray and De'Aaron Fox are the same age. Domantas Sabonis is about to turn 29 in 2 weeks. By the time Nikola Jokic is 29, he had 2 MVPs. I'm sorry, 28?
28.
He's about to turn 28.
Yeah.
He's a year younger than Nikola Jokic. By the time Nikola Jokic was 28, he had 2 MVPs. And that's where this all kind of falls apart to me because you have Murray and Jokic peaking as a duo with this talent already around them. And you have De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, who should theoretically, that's your Murray and Jokic in the situation, I think, very obviously. You have this duo who is roughly the same age as the Nuggets duo, but you are well behind them in terms of team building.
Okay, so I totally get that concern. But I would also say a couple of things. Number one, like Sabonis is never going to be an MVP, right? I
Sure.
don't think he's not going to get to. It's because he doesn't score enough. Like if he scored more, like maybe he could be in some sort of conversation.
Sure.
He's going to be a top, 6 to 8 MVP balloting guy, but he's not. But that kind of he puts him in the same like ballpark. I would also say that De'Aaron Fox is much better player than Jamal Murray. Now, is he as clutch in the playoffs as Jamal Murray? We don't know because we haven't actually seen it, right? But then it comes down to like the other positions on the floor and how they develop and all that stuff. So, like, could Keegan Murray be equal to or greater than Michael Porter Jr.? Yes, I still think that. Either way, he's younger. Right? Can Keon Ellis be equal to or greater than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? I don't know. That's yet to be seen, but similar style of player. If you bring back Malik Monk somehow, Malik Monk is a better player than Reggie Jackson. The key that I'm always going to point to is that the Kings don't have Aaron Gordon. Like we could balance everything else out here. The fact that they don't have Aaron Gordon, like that is the one thing that the Kings have to find. And again, whether it's a 2, whether it's a 3 or a 4, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't at all. Because I could sit here and make an argument that you have other pieces that could be equal to or better than. Like having a Harrison Barnes is fine. It's just that the fact that you don't have Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is just a much better player and a much better fit for what you're trying to do. And the same thing with Kevin Huerter. Like Kevin Huerter is a perfectly fine player. But he's not Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He doesn't bring the same thing, which is that defensive-minded shooting guard that you have to have in order for this whole thing to work.
I think it also this is not an anti-Sabonis thing. This is a Nikola Jokic sets a extremely high bar if you're trying to replicate that. And I just don't think there's another player that replicates the impact he has on games at the center position. With what he can do as a scorer, what he does as a passer out of the high post, out of the low post, from the perimeter, whatever it is, he is just so freaking good that if Sabonis is 23, we're going, yeah, hey, there's some development there. But I think that Sabonis is just kind of the player that he's going to be. Oh, no, and that's really, really good.
Yeah.
This is not about Domantas Sabonis. It's about what Nikola Jokic does as a player, that I think if you're trying to replicate that by going, yeah, we have roughly that, I think the bar for how much better Keon Ellis needs to be than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is very high. That Aaron Gordon player now becomes even more important.
Yes.
For what he does for Jokic and some of what he takes off of Jokic's plate defensively. And I think the same goes for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Now, maybe De'Aaron Fox is enough to make that up by being that much better than Jamal Murray. I don't know.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think that's the counterbalance.
That's my major. It's like, dude, everything runs through Nikola Jokic, and it's not just in the dribble handoff. They're getting it to him in crunch time. He took 5 fourth quarter shots last night. And that's like your dude. It's not okay. Well, it's De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk time. It's like, no, it's Nikola Jokic time. And that's the other pretty major concern I have with this. Can I offer you a Aaron Gordon suggestion though?
Okay.
Just while we're here.
Yeah.
Just to, unless you have a response.
No, I'm here for it because no, I get what you're saying, and especially the fact that you can't feature Domas in the final 3 minutes of a game. That's just not who he is. Yeah. And he's not a good enough free throw shooter as well in order for that to be who he is.
Yeah.
So I think that adds to it. Like, should he work this entire offseason on post moves? Yes. But again, we're talking about 27 going on 28-year-old developing a post move. I think he can and like become even a better player as he goes along. Just refine who he is as a player. But I also think that where he is as a player is like really spectacular, and it's on management to put the pieces around him. Go find an Aaron Gordon. Go, find these players that make that cover the things that he's not good at. Which is, again, Michael Malone and the ownership and management of the Denver Nuggets, they've done a really good job of building the players around them.
Yes,
they have, and then they look for like what we talk about with the 49ers, the gold helmet guys. That's Christian Brown, like the gold helmet guys. That's who you need, and I think that that's what the Kings have to do. And I'm not saying Colby Jones can't be that, because maybe he can, but
sure.
But I'd also say Christian Brown, played huge minutes as a rookie on a championship team.
Yeah. That's different. That's the other thing is let's get away from the Jokic. The bar the Nuggets have set is crazy high.
Oh yeah,
and I get that that's a good spot to shoot for, but I like I said, the timelines and everything else, it's like, man, I get the theory, but to me, if that's what the Kings are trying to do, if they're just like, oh yeah, we just need to find an Aaron Gordon, like, oh sure,
yeah,
just go get him.
No,
I guess
that's the problem.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like trying to find one of those guys, it's not easy, and it sure as hell isn't Kyle Kuzma.
Could it be Jonathan Kuminga?
No,
not at all.
No,
why not?
Well, first of all, the thing with Aaron Gordon is he's really, really good defensively and really smart defensively, and Kuminga might be okay as a man-up defender. He is not good as a team defender at all. And that's where like a team defending guy is what you have to have. And again, these guys are hard to find. Like, it's not like they grow on trees. I would say, again, I would say Brandon Clark is more the type. I mean, he's coming off an Achilles tear, and I don't think that they're going to move him, but Brandon Clark type player would do more. And I know the Kings they thought they had a deal done for Jared Vanderbilt, and Jared Vanderbilt is super, super close to De'Aaron Fox, like one of his better friends in the league. And they thought they had a deal for him. That's another guy that I would look at. Like, you have to find that guy. And I don't know how you do it, because again, I could see the Lakers going, okay, we're going to like big game hunt, or we need an elite 3-point shooter. Maybe they would consider a Kevin Huerter for Jared Vanderbilt swap. Maybe that's something that would make sense to them. So
the other, just with Aaron Gordon specifically, the role he's taken and embraced in Denver as a person entering his prime in the NBA after being a top 5 guy? 4th overall in the 2014 draft, and went to Orlando to be the dude and just never quite had that work out. The fact that he goes to Denver and then just accepts that role and is like, yeah, hey, he went from shooting in 7 seasons with Orlando, he shot 44.7% from the field. He's at 54.2% with the Nuggets.
That's because all he does is catch like wide open lobs.
Yeah.
Right. So
he's not trying. He's not like, I need the ball in my hands. I need to create.
But this is, I mean, again, this is the beauty of Michael Malone. It is. Michael Malone is a great coach. But I'd also say it's the beauty of Mike Brown. Like, what we just saw with Malik Monk should like show you the path of how to create that player for the Kings.
Yes.
Right? So you understand what I'm saying? Like, he took Malik
totally.
Monk, who started 37 games the year before and was probably coming in thinking, well, maybe I'll start. No, this is who I need you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to accept it. And I need you to excel in it. And,
Mm-hmm.
We'll get you 6 Man of the Year trophies, but this is who I need you to be. Okay, done. So that's where a great coach comes in and can help you.
It's a great point.
Like, massage these situations to your advantage. So, like, where it makes sense for a player to come in and accept a different role. And, like, look, Aaron Gordon is one of the few players that I would point to where I talk about this all the time, where, so many people go, hey, look, if we bring in, again, I bring up, Dante Green is the guy I always bring up.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in Dante Green, 6'10", 6'9", 6'10", long wingspan, great, like, feel for the game on the offensive end.
Mm-hmm.
If we bring him in and he doesn't work as like a scoring option, we can convert him to a 3-and-D guy. You can't. Aaron Gordon might be one of the few exceptions to a guy who came into the league with a totally different mentality and a totally
Mm-hmm.
different like persona as a player, to be able to morph him into something.
Yeah.
And to have him stop taking stupid shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that in itself is beauty. Like, Aaron Gordon doesn't take bad shots anymore. He took so many bad shots as a young player.
He actually takes the same amount of shot attempts a game in Denver that he did in Orlando.
Yeah, they're just better shot
just
attempts.
Way better looks.
Yeah. So
getting that buy-in is a dramatic aspect to this.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's where Monty and Wes have to, like, it doesn't have to be like some enormous deal that brings in Pascal Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
It can be some other deal that no one is thinking of that just works out. And again, I'll keep it. It wasn't so much the Jason Williams for Mike Bibby trade that made the Kings great. It was the Corliss Williamson for Doug Christie deal that made the Kings great. That was the final piece that helped wrap it all together.
Yeah.
And I would make the argument of the starting 5, Doug was, like, as far as like production, the least sort of valuable guy in the NBA. The probably the least of, like, if you're ranking the best players on the team, it would be him and Vlade, like, at number 5. Like, which one is number 4 and which is number 5? You start with, it's clear, Chris Webber's number 1, Peja Stojakovic is number 2, Mike Bibby's number 3. Then it's like a discussion about who's the 4th and 5th best player. Well, the Kings have to find that guy. They have to have a guy who's the 4th or 5th best player, but his impact on the court ties everything together.
Yeah.
And that's how you get better.
I saw some quotes from Monty McNair in a story by Howard Beck in The Ringer, where he talks about the bad to good jump versus the good to great jump. And how, McNair basically said that the bad to good isn't necessarily easy. That's not an easy jump to make, but it's also very, very difficult to go from good to great.
Yeah.
And this is where I think that it's harder. It was not hard to identify De'Aaron Fox and go, that's a heck of a basketball player. It's not hard to look at Domantas Sabonis and go, hey, here's how he fits our roster better than Tyrese Halliburton does. Okay, hey, we're going to make this swap. But now it comes down to kind of these intangible things that you're talking about. It's easy to point to a good player. I'm gonna stick on the Jonathan Kuminga thing for a second, because I agree with you. I think you made good points there. Jonathan Kuminga, skill set wise, you go, man, jumps out of the gym, capable on-ball defender, has defended Jason Tatum well in the past, has started to pick, he can score a little bit, he plays well out of the dunker spot, he's picking up a handle a little bit. Hey, you kind of see it, but there are so many players talented like that in the league. It's not about a talent getting them in here. Now it's a mindset. Now it's getting down, and this is the hardest part of scouting. We're talking about the NFL draft a lot on Candlestick Chronicles and at Niners Wire. There's so much of this. It's like, all these dudes are good at football, but which dudes like football? Which dudes fit your culture? Which guys have that dog in them, as it were? And that's such a key part of the team building process that is, to me, way more difficult than just going, oh, that guy's good at basketball, that guy's good at basketball. And it's like, but is that guy good at basketball for your team? Is that guy good at basketball now, but going to be better at basketball in 3 years? And these are the things that they're going to have to really, really drill down on as they start making these moves and making these deals. Not only does this person's playing style fit, but are they going to buy in the way we saw Keon Ellis buy in? The way we saw Malik Monk buy in? And that to me is why this next jump for them is going to be harder.
No, I get what you're saying. And Drew Down brings up that Kuminga's only 21. The problem is it's not that Kuminga is a bad player. It's that Kuminga still believes he is an all-star.
Yeah, right.
And
Sure.
Don't need that. What they need is a guy who believes he can average 8 rebounds a game and can block 1.5 shots per game and will be a great defender and will hit the open 3 and like accept the role that's available.
Well, and frankly, this gets back to what you were talking about earlier. Because Jonathan Kuminga is 21, recently 21. Like, he's still a very young player in the league. And if he still believes that, then so be it. But that's why you talk about, you go draft an 18 or 19-year-old. The Kings don't have that kind of time to see what that player is going to develop into. They can't wait 2 or 3 years for draft pick to be a rotational player for them. That's not in the cards. So in that same way, they don't have time to let Jonathan Kuminga figure out if he's an all-star or a elite role guy. That's not something that's going to necessarily help them.
Right
away.
Exactly. And again, like looking in the chat, someone brings up Patrick Williams. I would take Patrick Williams, although he's got a lot of injury problems. I would take Patrick Williams over Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga is a more talented player. I don't have any question saying that. He is a more talented player. But we're talking about a better fit and who's going to accept a role. And even, I don't know, Patrick Williams is that guy either. Like, that's kind of the idea, though, that this team needs. They need to go out and find those types of players. And it's not easy. Again, I think the Kings could easily like stay at number 14. They could draft a really, really solid player,
like a 4-year college starter,
or they could even draft one of these European players and say, okay, look, as opposed to having a Kessler Edwards hiding on the bench, deep on the bench, and going back and forth between the G League, we've got a guy who was a lottery pick, a number 13 pick, who we're trying to develop in a different way. And 2 years, 3 years down the road, whether it's a stretch 4 or whether it's this 3-and-D, small forward, whatever it might be, that's okay. But that's, I think, where the Kings need to like take a step back. Like, who is it that we need? How do we get to that next step? And I do believe that that's what they've been doing, right? I'm not just saying, like everyone, it's Mikal Bridges or it's Lauri Markkanen or bust. That's what I'm saying. What it can't
be ideal, but it's not.
Yeah. But I think we've got to the point though where you can see this team. It can't be Kyle Kuzma and it can't be John Collins. It's got to be something that's different than those guys. Someone that has this other aspect to them that brings something that's so complementary to everybody else. And again, ties the whole thing together. It's about chemistry.
I would be super fascinated to sit down with Mike Brown and Kyle Kuzma and have Mike Brown pitch him the idea of being Aaron Gordon or that type of player.
Okay.
Where, hey, you're going to bust your hind end on defense. You're going to get to 50-50 balls. You're going to shoot it. What does Aaron Gordon shoot it? 10, 11 times a game. You're going to score 14, 15 points a night. And that's going to be your role on this team.
I think I can drop the mic. Will Kyle Kuzma take his sunglasses off during that discussion? No, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Like,
here, man.
I get what you're saying, but
that's why I'd be fascinated to watch it.
That's why it's like, okay, no, he won't, because he's never accepted anything else. He accepted $100 million deal or whatever it is in Washington to play for a loser, a team that they knew was not going to be good. And if he's telling you he thought differently, then he's absolutely crazy. People bring up Denny Avdija.
I thought Jordan Poole was going to win Most Improved, so
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
I think Denny Avdija has talent, and he's a guy I would at least like. It's the idea of this I get, but at the same time, the Kings need long, athletic, super athletic. They need a shot blocker. They need somebody, again, if you could find the young Jeremy Grant, not 30-year-old with $90 million still left on his contract.
Yeah.
Again, someone brought up in the chat, they brought up Isaac Okoro. Okay.
Isaac Okoro.
I love him too, but the fact is he's never quite developed. And is he just who he is and he's not good enough?
Yeah.
That's a possibility. And to be honest, what are you going to have to give up? How much does he make? And is Keon Ellis just flat out better?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the
Sure.
question you have to
Sure.
like address every single time when you're making these moves. Again,
But I also
Jaime
don't hate. I
Jaquez.
also don't hate the idea of having multiple Keon Ellises.
Oh no, no, I agree. Like again, we could talk about like, is Bruce Brown available? Can you go get him? Is
Mhm.
he going to opt out of his contract? He's probably not going to opt out at 20 million and take less.
Yeah.
But could you go get a guy like Bruce Brown and have him be part of your program?
Yeah.
Maybe that's something. But again, Keon Ellis, just a more mature version of that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it's really difficult. But that's why you make the big bucks. You got to go out and find these guys, and you got to
Yep.
like, advanced team building is brutal, especially when you could lose one of like the diamonds in the rough that you found and helped convert into a potential $100 million player.
Mhm.
Yeah. Malik Monk signed a 2-year, $19 million deal. He's now probably $120 million player. That was really, really good work by not only De'Aaron Fox, like pitching and getting him in there, but
Mhm.
also by the front office, like saying yes and going in and getting that player, and then having Mike Brown help develop that player.
Mhm.
Like, these are all things that you have to do if you're going to be a winning franchise, and sometimes you lose them.
This might be. We have a couple of minutes left. This might be too big of a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get the idea that if Mike Brown came in here and we said, "Hey, write a synopsis of the type of player you're looking for this offseason that you think this roster needs," and then Monty McNair, we asked him the same question, if those two definitions would line up?
That would be a really, really interesting question. I think that if you're Mike Brown, you could pitch why your answer would work and still be part of Monty's idea. And what I mean by that is, it's slightly complex, but where if you were to give me let's say a Jared Vanderbilt,
Mhm.
I can make Keegan Murray into the player that you guys want. I can make him into
Oh,
a 22
interesting.
point per game
Okay.
guy. If you give me Kyle Kuzma, I can't do that with Keegan. I've got to make Keegan into my Jared Vanderbilt. And like, I can't have both.
Mhm.
So I think it's a complex, again, like, give and take between a coach and a GM. I hope that they're on the same page.
Sure.
And it's Monty's job to bring in the players for him.
Yeah.
It's Mike's job to coach them, but also Mike has to have the right ingredients in order to make the right recipe.